Hello and welcome to Caesar Snack Sandwich. Today I have a video for you on Ajna, whatever. Okay, this is a completely novel, brand new lending market type idea. There are some similarities to some other things, like they're all isolated lending markets, kind of like time swap and stuff, but it's pretty different. Okay, there's a lot in here. I've read through this white paper. It was took me quite a long time to read through it. So I'm not gonna, you're gonna have to come and read it. Now, there's definitely some aspects of this thing that I'm not going to explain. So you can consider this video like a primer, a first look at kind of how the thing works. And then if you really want to dig deep and understand the math and stuff and how everything is calculated and all this, then you're gonna have to go into that white paper or go into the Discord, ask more questions, find out more as well. It's not a very simple thing, and in order to explain it in as little time as possible, I'm gonna have to omit some ideas or some things, as well as there are just some stuff that I just can't be bothered to try to understand quite yet. Okay, but let's get this video out and let's get people understanding kind of what's going on, and then you can go a little bit deeper. Okay. Okay, so here we are on the flowchart. We have dollar bill and we have Ajna here in the middle, okay? So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that can be done with Ajna or with the protocol is they can create these isolated pools, okay? And the isolated pools can be three types, okay? They can have ERC20, so I'm going to call these fungible versus fungible. So use ETH as collateral, borrow DAI. It can be NFT, fungible. So use NFT as collateral, borrow DAI in this case, right? Or NFT as collateral, borrow another NFT. Now, this one's a little bit tricky. I'm not even going to talk about that one. I'm just going to kind of skip over this, and I'm going to focus mostly on the ERC20 fungible versus fungible assets. Just keep in mind that like this NFT market here, you have to, it doesn't accept fractionalized NFTs in the sense like you can't well, basically, if you're going to deposit a collateral as an NFT, you have to deposit the entire NFT. Okay, that's kind of how that market works, of course. Okay, so let's move inside. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is after the market's been created. So like I said, we're going to use ETH DAI in this case. So he's going to deposit at a price. So he's going to consider the prices of ETH and they can, and versus DAI, right, in this case, and he's going to deposit his assets into these different buckets that are like different prices. Now, I'm not exactly sure if he gets to set exactly this bucket or if these buckets are built with predetermined ticks or not. But anyway, so in the case, in my example case here, I have 16, 1500, 1400, 1300 as suitable prices for ETH in the near future or current time, right? So he takes, let's say, 5,000 DAI and he deposits 5,000 DAI into the 1,500 DAI per 1 ETH bucket, okay? And then along comes Grandma and she deposits 10,000 into the 14,000. So she believes ETH is worth less than dollar bill, and she thinks that it's just she doesn't see it as bullish. Okay, so she puts 10,000. She's willing to lend 10,000, and it's basically there's the possibility that she might end up with ETH. So it's kind of like she's paying, she's willing to pay 1,400 for the ETH as opposed to 1,500. Okay. Moving on. Then let's say she also deposits 5,000 into the 1,300, just so that we have three of these buckets with tokens in it, so you can understand some other stuff. Okay. So along comes Boosted Bill, and he wants to borrow. Okay, so he takes, let's say in this example, he takes 10,000 or 10 ETH, he deposits them in there, and he borrows out of the buckets. So he looks at the first bucket, so he wants the most valuation for his tokens, right? He believes his tokens are worth as much as possible, right? So he wants the highest valuation. So he takes, let's say, 5,000 or some amount out of this bucket, less than dollar bill. Okay, so he's taking from this top bucket, 1,500 bucket, and now they have this lowest utilization price is 1,500. So because this is the lowest bucket that's been borrowed against, right? So these are important for many things, okay, inside this protocol. And so this threshold price is calculated by taking his debt and dividing it by his collateral, okay? And this is basically the price where he's going to kind of get liquidated, okay? So he's got to kind of keep this threshold price above the lowest utilization price, and that's how he kind of manages his risk, okay? Now, we talk about some APRs. There's a crazy mathematical way of deriving these APRs based on utilization and unutilization and all of this other stuff. Go to the doc. If you want to know exactly how APR is programmed, then go to the white paper and read it. But basically, the idea is that obviously the more that there is, the more lenders, the cheaper it is to borrow. And as more borrowers come, the APR on that like borrowing goes up. Okay. Now the key special thing here is that only the people at or above the utilization price get APR. So Grandma's right now, because he's only borrowed 5,000 out of this top bucket or 5,000 or less, right? Then Grandma's not getting any APR because she's valued his collateral below and she's below the current lowest utilization price. Okay, so that's the key thing. Now it does say that the range, there's some crazy stuff in there, but like keep in mind that it's going to be somewhere between 0.1% up to 400%. Those are the ranges that the lowest and the highest possible APR that you can get hit with. Okay. Now let's say Boosted Bill wants more. He decides to juice it up a bit more and take a little bit extra. So he takes another 8,100, and now that's more than dollar bills. So he moves down into this next slot, right? And now that he's down in this next slot, this slot is starting to gain interest as well. Okay, and let's say he takes another 1,801, so 8,100, and now his total debt is up to 13,100. Now his threshold price is still above the current lowest utilization price, so he's still safe in that sense. Moving on. Now, dollar bill sees this and he's like, hey, I want to jack this guy. So I'm going to pull up my $5,000 and I'm going to take that utilization price down because now 13 would take him down to 1,300, right? But he can't. It's some amount of his DAI will be locked in there so that he cannot force his threshold price to go below the current LUP. The only way his threshold price can go below the current LUP is through like interest accumulation, or he borrows a little bit more and gets real close, or even borrows too much, and then he's at the point where he can get flagged for liquidation. Okay, so moving on. So that's what basically the idea here. So like maybe after some time, his debt has accrued like some interest and it's gone up to $1,401, right, DAI, and now he is above the 1,400. So he's his threshold price is above the lowest utilization price. So now he can be flagged for liquidations. So liquidations are pretty special, okay? So another person, anybody permissionlessly can come here, see that this guy is in a situation where he can be liquidated and he can trigger what they call a kick, okay? And basically he has to take some DAI and bond it so that like nobody, you can't just, there won't be like an MEV or some sort of like DOS attack, like a whole bunch of kicks, or people are kicking at like positions that are not valuable to liquidate. Okay, they're not actually in the proper liquidation perimeters, or they won't be profitable to liquidate. Okay, so he puts up a bond, right, of some DAI. Again, if you want to know how much he has to put, there's some crazy math for that as well. Okay, now let's assume everything looks good and everything is good. He puts up a bond. He does the kick, and now his position is flagged for liquidation. So it takes the highest threshold price, and in this case there's only one, so it's his price, right? And it multiplies it times 256, and then auctions off his collateral heavily overpriced. Okay, so way over the price. Okay, so 256 times higher than $1,400 in this case, and then it deteriorates over 72 hours down to like pretty much zero. And anywhere along this time, someone can come and exercise the liquidation system to liquidate boosted bill here. Okay, now his bond is based on where on this. Now it has this neutral price. Now I've chosen to put it kind of in the middle of this graph. Now I'm not exactly sure if the neutral price is the exact middle of this price, right? So it's somewhere on this line, probably close to the middle or somewhere around the middle, where he is either his bond die is at a loss versus a profit. So if someone comes along and buys up here, then he's going to lose die. If it's below that price, like when someone actually buys the 10 ETH for less than like the 14 ETH, 14,000 DAI per ETH, then he gets a profit, right? So this is to encourage people not to bond like crazy, okay? Now, when the liquidation wants to happen, there's three possible ways to actually liquidate his position. There is this take, which is like take the liquidation, right? And that's basically somehow you come up with some DAI, you pay off the debt, and you take the collateral, right? So that's a normal similar system. You could take it with a flash loan, or somehow you get this DAI and you pay off the debt and you get the collateral, right? So, you know, dude's going to do that here, okay? Now, the other possible thing is someone can call deposit take. Now, this is a pretty crazy one, okay? So basically what it does is it uses the depositor's values to pay the debt and then takes that collateral and gives it claimable to the people who have provided the DAI. So it's basically these guys buying that ETH at similar to their bucket price. Now, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure that it goes from most expensive to cheapest. Okay, so dollar bill will buy the first amount he can, and then grandma will buy the rest of it. Okay, moving on. Okay, the last one we have is Ninja Nick, and Ninja Nick can call what they call ARB take. Now, ARB take is pretty strange, okay? And basically what it does is it takes his ETH, right? And it uses his ETH and gives it to Ninja Nick as collateral. And then he borrows versus that collateral in DAI and uses that DAI to pay off what is required of Ninja Nick's or Boosted Bill's debt. Okay, now this one's a little bit hard. There's some gas costs in there that they have to consider, and there's some big brain stuff. So I don't really understand how this collateral can be used to borrow enough in order to pay off all his debt. There is the possibility that someone can use ArbTake to enter this system with collateral, and then he's taking the debt. So somehow he takes over Boosted Bill's debt, and I would say he probably would have to pay off some of it in order to do that. But get in there, digging through that math, and figure out if you can understand it a little bit better than me on that. Okay, fees. Time for fees. There are fees in this system. Obviously, there's this origination fee. So anytime you start a loan, then you instantly pay 1 week's of APR at the current rate, right? So in this case, let's say the current rate is 10%, right? And you take the amount, you take 10%, you divide it by 52, and then you multiply times the debt. In this case, I got about $25. So his debt is increased by $25, okay? So he has $25 extra of debt in that sense, okay, immediately, okay? Then there are some other fees, and that is this loss. So if he bonds and it gets purchased before that neutral price, then he loses some or all or some portion of this DAI, and that DAI is sent into the contract, okay? Is kept in the contract because it is escrowed, right? And then there's also anytime you deposit underneath the current LUP, then you have to pay a small fee. It says small fee. I don't know how much that is. Okay, so you pay the small fee. All of this is kind of accumulating inside this contract. You can kind of, it's kind of inside these buckets here, but it's sitting inside that same market. Okay, but it's not these guys' money. It's the protocol's money. So it's a fee for the protocol. Now, what can happen is anybody can come along and look at that and go, oh, there's $25 in there. It's probably not enough in this case, but let's say $25 is enough considering gas and all that. Then they can start the auction, okay? And the auction off this money. Now this money is reduced by I think it's 0.995. Another big formula. Okay, so anyhow, there is like some amount of money in here, and there's a little. It's reduced because there's some debt, and the debt is not necessarily going to be paid back to these people. So it's a complicated thing again, but simply saying. Simply speaking, it's like there's some extra money inside this contract, so it can be auctioned off. So anyone can turn on the auction, and then again, it's another reverse Dutch auction, but instead of using collateral or something, you actually pay with the governance token of this protocol. And all of those Angen tokens are then burned when the person decides to pay. So it kind of forces like the market price of this Angen token to kind of match the value that is in these reserves waiting to be auctioned off and then those engine tokens burned. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's kind of like this thing in a nutshell, kind of a quick look inside and kind of what's going on here. Now, like I said, there's a lot here, and even me, I had to read the white paper a couple times just to kind of make this flowchart for you, and there's a lot missing from it. So, as always, I will suggest you go in there, ask more questions, dig deeper, read the paper yourself, find out if this is something you're interested in, and thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.